So we're going to play a quick little game because I know it's after lunch, right? And everybody's like, So it's an easy game. You just stand up, sit down. I'll show you how it works. So stand up if your name's Orley Harden. Oh, there's one right there. That's the only one we have, right? Stand up if you wish you were at home taking a nap. There we go. Absolutely. All right. All right, so stand up if you are currently working in a position that is the position that you want to be in when you retire. There we go. Okay, so we got that group. So stand up if you are currently taking classes to advance your career. Okay. Stand up if you plan to take classes at any time between now and when you retire to advance your career. All right, that's very good. And stand up if you are within 10 years of retirement. Man, that's the group I want to be in sometime, right? That's that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's hopefully not a train. You want to get there. You want to get there. So what we're going to talk about today to kind of wrap up, and I know you've had 3 great speakers come in and are talking about life and things to do, and what I want to really talk about is finding your passion. And finding your passion can really happen at any age. You know, Colonel Sanders didn't start selling chicken for Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was past 50 years of age. So it was after age 50 that he even started Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I've given this talk around the country and really like to talk to all kinds of groups. Usually it's high school students or college students, but talk to groups about finding your passion because that's a passion of mine. Carl Mack, who's a Mississippi State University graduate, graduated in mechanical engineering from Mississippi State years ago, came here from Murrah High School, was a co-op student, ended up graduating co-op with Boeing, graduated, went to Seattle with Boeing Aircraft. Carl was a great engineer, continued to get promoted, making a great life for himself. Carl always felt a niche to want to give back. Volunteered at a local community college, started a club there, a student organization with a national group called the National Association of Black Engineers. Small group at this little college he was working in, and began to experience and grow that little organization. Took those students to a regional and national conference, and he's continued to do that for several years, giving back. But he always felt this niche and this urge. Well, the executive director position for the National Society of Black Engineers came open in Washington, D.C. Carl applied for that job and got it. Carl took about a 50% pay cut to take that job. But as I was talking to Carl one day, he told me it wasn't really the money because he knew he could be successful. He said it was the passion that drove me to do something that I felt was what I was led to do. He said, I was a great engineer. I loved being an engineer, but I never felt like I was contributing. And you can contribute at any age. Carl contributed, went there. That group was really struggling when he started. They were down under 10,000 members. And now they've got close to 40,000. So his passion, his direction over the past 10 years have really grown that group. But he'll be the first to tell you anytime he comes back to this campus, it was his passion for wanting to help others and wanting to help himself that led him to do that. And that's what I want every one of us to kind of think about today. Because even the group that is 10 years close to retirement that stood up, right? Their passion may not come until after they retire. those things that they can get involved in where they can make a difference, the things you can get involved in where you can make a difference. Now, maybe that's your career. Maybe you're in a job right now that you think, I'm just here, I'm trying to do better, I'm going to take classes, I'm going to advance my career and take the next step. And that's great. Hopefully, every supervisor on this campus wants you to do that, wants you to be in a position, if you want to take classes to get an advanced degree and advance your career, it's there. There's a guy named Patrick Palmer who wrote a book, and he has a quote that I like to use, and it's, before you can figure out what you want to do with your life, you need to figure out what your life intends to do with you. Think about that. Before you can figure out what you want to do with your life, you need to figure out what your life intends to do with you. Where are you going to make a difference? Because we all can, and we all should try to make a difference somewhere. So as you think about those things and where you want to go with your life and what you want to do, hopefully that will guide you for your future and your direction. Now, how many in here, stand up again if you intend to take classes to advance your career? All right. Will anybody share what they want? If they had to pick their dream job, what would it be? Yes. Are you standing up to share? Yes. Medical technologist. Anybody else? Well, picture that dream job in your mind for a moment. And think about what it's going to take to get there. What it's going to take to get to that job or that place. Because the first thing you have to answer to yourself is who am I and what am I going to do to get to that position? Maybe it's classes. I've got to take classes toward that medical technology position to get that next job. You know, I've got a person in my office that started in my office prior to having a college degree. Finished high school, took some college, decided to get out, went to work. Had to go to work, went to work. Came back several years later, about 20, decided, I think I want to finish my degree. Finished that degree, position came open, person got that position, promotion. Started on a master's degree. When you break down a master's degree, it's typically just 10 classes. Take one class a semester, 2 years, 2.5 years, you're done. 2.5 years goes by just like that. I've got a 26-year-old and a 22-year-old. We were talking to a friend the other day who has a newborn. God bless him. But I told him, I said, don't blink, because that time just flies by. It flies by just like that, you know. One day, you're changing diapers, or your wife's changing diapers. I changed a few. No, I changed quite a few. But one day, they're there, and that baby, and then they're walking, you know, and then the next day, they're walking across that stage at graduation, and they're married. And it goes by so quick. So you think how fast that goes by if you have kids. A 2.5-year investment into a graduate program is a small amount of time. Finding ways to educate yourself additionally in any way, it's just a small investment if you take it small bites at a time. When you look at it initially, it's so daunting. You know, wow, 30 hours, 10 classes, I'm working, I'm helping raise my family, I'm taking care of elderly parents, I've got kids, I've got baseball, I've got Girl Scouts, I've got this, I've got that. How am I going to find that time? But if you can find that time, it pays off in the end. So this person went on and got a master's degree. Another promotion came up. Moved on again. A few years later, another job opened up. Another promotion again. All because of that one small decision 10 years earlier to say, I need to finish my undergraduate degree. Or maybe it's, I need to get that associate's degree. But the one step, the small success, led to another step, another success, led to more experience, and another success, all finding what that person wanted to do, finding that passion, continuing to grow. There's a lot of opportunities across this campus. There's a lot of great opportunities. So finding your niche and being able to fit in, whether it's on this campus or not on this campus, there's possibilities that you can reach out there and see those. In our office in the Career Center, you know, we typically just work with students, but between our office and HR, we'll help you find those passions and find those areas that are out there that you're interested in. We'll help you identify opportunities to expand your education and see where those opportunities exist, or work backwards. We work a lot with students on the backside. A student will walk in and they'll say, I want to be this, or I would really like to do this. And then we'll help them map backwards. Okay, to get to that point, what do you need to do? You think about that for the areas you're interested in. To get to that point, what do you need to do? And then map it out. There may be multiple ways to get there. It may not be just one straight answer. You may have 3 or 4 different options. A student came in the other day, said, I want to work in NASCAR. You want to be a driver? No, I want to be in promotion in NASCAR. I want to work in the business of NASCAR. I said, wow, okay. Well, let's think about how you want to get there. What do you want to do? Like marketing, promotion, sales. I want to be out and be involved and be able to travel to the races and go and do those things. So we started thinking, okay, the promotion side, you could get a communication degree. The marketing side, you could get a business degree. Computer science degree might be beneficial on the promotion side for the web side and the sales side. There's lots of ways to get there. Then we talked about internships, and we talked about co-ops and how to get there from there. There's lots of ways to get there. But again, from where you're sitting today, it takes that first step. And it may not be that it's additional education that you need. Maybe your passion is just volunteering. You know, a lot of folks in my office volunteer with the Women's Job Corps because that's something that they're passionate about and they're interested in, and it's helping other people advance. You know, your passion and your interest doesn't have to be an advanced job for you. It may be that position like Carl Mack had, where you're trying to just give back, where you're trying to make a difference in the lives of someone else. That is huge. You know, that can be so important in the future of someone else when they come back to you because you took a little time with them. You know, I've been here 27 years. Some of you have been here as long as me. Now we get that joy of this past orientation where the student comes up and they introduce themselves and they say, hey, Karen, I'm Scott Maynard. And Karen looks at me and goes, oh, you taught my mom. Like, oh, that was back when I had hair. I did. That full generation comes back. But a lot of times they'll tell a story too. My mom said, or my dad said. And they talk about something that the office did to help them or help them succeed out there. And now we're seeing more and more and more of those come back through. 3rd generation, 4th generation co-op students come back through. And it all comes back to somebody took a little time to help me. You know, every single office on this campus has that ability as well, to reach out and help a student or help a parent, help them find their way. And it may be absolutely nothing to you, but you never know what that help, what that additional push, what that sense of encouragement will do for them. Maybe it's a student worker in your office that you just take under your wing. Maybe it's a student worker that you just take under your wing to help support them and give them some uplifting guidance, to give them some motherly or fatherly advice, to give them that little point that says, you know, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you should think about doing this. And making a suggestion that influences them. You never know how that's going to change. We get to see it in our day-to-day because of the Career Center. People are getting jobs. People are getting internships. And you see those freshmen come in and they're just wide-eyed. And they go to work the first time in Houston, Texas, or Washington, D.C. And they come back and the maturity level is totally different. They're more mature. They have a sense about them of where they want to go and what they want to do, that they can make a difference. You know, a lot of times you all had an influence in that as well. So as you think about what you want to do, think about these things where I think we can help in the Career Center, where I know HR can help pull that together. What are you going to need to do? We talked about finding your passion. We talked about the little things like preparing a resume. We've got lots of samples we can help along that way. But getting to a place where you can present yourself. One of the earlier speakers talked about making a good first impression. A lot of times that good first impression comes from that resume, because a lot of times that little piece of paper is what gets you the interview, that resume and that cover letter. I could tell stories all day of cover letters that we get or resumes that we see. You apply for a typical job on this campus, you post a job out there, you get 100 resumes back. About 10 out of the 100 are addressed to somebody different. Details are very important. Another 20 or so have misspelled words on them. Details, again, are important. And sometimes the cover letter is talking about, I really would like a position in sales, but they're applying for a position in the Career Center. We're not selling anything. So little details like that make a huge difference. Communication skills are extremely important as well. Being able to interview and articulate your thoughts are very important. All of that just takes practice. Those interview skills, though. I can tell you a secret right now. Most of you probably already know this, but if you don't, I'll share this wonderful secret with you. Every interview you ever go on, the very first question you're going to get asked is, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Because that's easy, right? You walk into a room, you introduce yourself, you say, hey, I'm Scott Maynard, and you say,
Hey, I'm wonderful.
Lana. One other quick thing, whenever you're introducing yourself, say your name slow and loud. Because people old like me that don't have much hair also can't hear very well sometimes. I always know when I say my name too quickly because the person will call me John. I'll introduce myself as Scott Maynard, and somehow Scott Maynard comes out as John. And I don't know why, but it's probably happened to me 100 times. And at that point, I know I've introduced myself too quickly and I did not speak my name clearly. So make sure they understand your name. They're going to bring you in, they're going to sit you down, and just as a matter of courtesy, they're going to say, well, Lana, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, you know what the first question is going to be. How you answer that question can really dictate the entire rest of that interview. How you answer that question can sell them on you as that person. Because you already know the question now, so you can prepare your answer. My name is Scott Maynard. I grew up in Starkville, Mississippi. I attended Starkville High School and went on to Mississippi State, where I majored in marketing and stayed on to get a master's of business administration. My first career was in retail. I worked in retail for about 10 years before I came back to Mississippi State as a coordinator in the cooperative education program. I'm interested in this position today because, boom, 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 I think I would be a good fit for this position because, boom, 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 and all of a sudden you paint the picture for them of I'm the perfect person for this position, and here's why. I can contribute to this position, and here's why. And I'm excited to be here today to interview with you. Because most people are going to answer that question like, my name's Scott Maynard, I grew up in Starkville, Mississippi, I currently work in the Career Center. What else you want to know? You know? Oh. Whenever I ask students that, I always bring the students up on stage. I didn't bring you up on stage. But I usually bring the students up on stage with a chair, and I make them stand up in the chair. Brand new student, come up, the volunteer, and they kind of wander up, Make them stand in the chair. I say, this is what you feel like in an interview. You're a little nervous. You feel like you're up on a pedestal. There's some old bald guy that's getting ready to ask you questions, and you have no idea what he's going to ask. And that's how you feel. Well, that's how we kind of all feel in an interview, right? No matter whether we're old pros at it or we're going to the very first time. You're just a little unsure. But if you go in prepared and you go in knowing the answer to that first question, that really helps set it at ease. Because a lot of times how you answer that question, as I said, can control that interview, but the points that you make are points that you're also prepared to talk about. In my current position, I do X, Y, Z, and they're probably going to ask you questions about those. So you'll have that information to go on. So preparing for that, preparing for those questions. And then what do employers really look for? You're wanting to advance your career. What is somebody really looking for? We surveyed recently, I was on a committee with the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And we recently did a survey to 700 hiring managers across the United States. The number one thing they looked for was communication skills. Oral and written communication skills. Oral and written communication skills, not texting skills. I had a little game I always played with my kids after they were old enough to get cell phones, and they would send me a text. If it wasn't a complete sentence, I wouldn't answer them back. And they finally figured that out and started asking, if they didn't put a question mark at the end, You can play that little game with them to teach them, because so many times we'll see resumes and cover letters that have text in it. Thank you, spelled you. No. Oral and written communication skills, how well you communicate, is number one. And it's number one across all disciplines. It's number one for entry-level jobs, and it's number one for CEO jobs. Because no matter what you're doing, you're having to communicate with others. It may be coworkers, it may be students, it may be salespeople, it may be people that are in administrative positions above you, but you're always having to communicate with them. Number two was problem-solving skills. Problem-solving skills. If I go to Miss Self over here and say I need some space in the research park, and they're out of space in the research park, Miss Self is probably going to figure out a way to move somebody somewhere else. If we move this group, they're not really using all their space, but they're renting it. We can probably move them over here and move this group over here, and then you can have this whole wing. And she has solved a problem. And then she'll walk in and say, Mark, I've got it all figured out. I know exactly how we can do this. Mark will probably take credit for it, but we know Miss Vera is the one that did it. But problem-solving skills are important, Every morning when the facilities folks get up and go to work, they got a list of problems they've got to solve, right? Because things happen on this campus. Things go wrong. They've got issues to deal with. Their very first thing that they do very well is prioritize those issues, right? If I've got a light bulb out in my office, it may get a lower priority than the elevator being out in Lee Hall and the president can't get up to his office. Prioritizing those things. Problem-solving skills, extremely important. In fact, it's the number 2 thing people look for. The third one is leadership skills. Because I don't want to hire you to just do a job today. I want to hire you with the hopes that you're going to be trained and you're going to be doing a bigger job down the road. You know, on this campus, that bigger job may be we hired you to come in and do one thing. Now we want you to do this, plus 2 more, plus supervise all these student workers, plus do these other things. You know, unfortunately, a lot of times the pluses don't come with additional money, right? So I started out doing this, making this. Now I'm doing this, and I'm still making this. Hopefully one day we can remedy that problem too. That's always been a pet peeve of mine, is that for the faculty side of this campus, there's promotional opportunities. You go from assistant professor to associate professor to full tenured professor. And I've argued with HR for years saying, we need the same thing on the staff side. We need staff promotion levels to be able to move people up at all levels. Still working on that. That's my goal before I retire. I've probably got about 15 more years, so but hopefully it'll get there. But those are important. Those are the top 3. The other thing is computer skills in your area that you're in, being able to have those quality computer skills, and organizational skills, being able to organize and put on areas. We want to see you successful in the Career Center. We want to see people successful on this campus. I think anybody you talk to would tell you that. In your job, in your position, we want everyone to be successful. We want our university to be successful. We're all recruiters for our university. We're all working to try to get enrollment up and more students here. But part of that comes with a price again. Looking back on me as a staff member, looking back on you as a staff member. Because the more students we bring in, the bigger every one of our jobs gets, right? The more time consuming it gets. So we want opportunities for growth. We want to continue to push for those opportunities for each and every one of you. So if we can help you in the Career Center, whether it's resumes, you just want somebody to look over your resume, we'll be happy to do that. HR will be happy to do that. Cover letter, suggestions or ideas on things that you can do to better yourself. And again, it doesn't always have to be a class. There's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Our staff went through each of the 7 habits over 7 months last year. We took 1 habit a month. Habits like be proactive in the things that you do. Begin with the end in mind. Think about the results you want before you start the project. Think win-win. What can I do to help you, but it's also going to help me solve my problem? And sharpen the saw is the last one. That's 4 of the 7. Sharpen the saw is probably the most important. What are you going to do to take time for you to help you in your future? What are you going to do to take time for you to help you in your future? So many times, especially the mothers in this group, never stop and take time for themselves. You got kids, you got school, you got homework. Goodness gracious, how much homework do these teachers give now? Projects, You're getting ready to go to bed. Somebody walks in and goes, oh yeah, by the way, I need 2 pieces of poster board and 3 pair of tennis shoes for my project tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock. Yeah, it won't take but about 10 minutes, 3 hours later. Right? But you got to take some time for yourself, realizing that family pulls you in a lot of different directions. That's how you energize yourself as well. So, find your passion, set that goal, begin with the end in mind, thinking about where I want to be. Identify the path to get there, keeping in mind there may be multiple paths to get there. And then take that first step, because that first step will lead to the next step and lead to the next step. And just like those kids growing up, all of a sudden you'll look up and you'll be there. You'll have reached that goal. Once you reach that first one, the second one's a little easier. Once you reach that one, the next one's a little easier. But it's beginning with that first step that makes it all possible. Thank you very much. I know y'all have had a long, long day, but I appreciate it. And if we can help you, please let us know. Thank you.